and it used to be called Sarter's. There was no Hamann. And Mr. Sarter had a store. He had multiple locations downtown. The one that probably most people that are older remember is right across the street from our downtown location on 12th and O, to the east, which is now, it was 12th Street Pub and it was something else. Well, now it's American Distillery or something like that. So that's kind of where everything began with. My grandfather had retired. He was a watchmaker, but he was also a general contractor. His dad, they lived in Crete, and his dad, they were from Germany. In fact, he was born on the boat over here from Germany. My grandfather was. So his original name was Gunther. The German name. He renamed himself William when they got here. And his dad started a farm down in Crete and retired very early. He was 50 when he retired. And then he went and found a wife. And so that's how they did it back then. He didn't get married until he was 50 years old. So they had my grandfather. My grandfather inherited some money and did general contracting, and then was also a watchmaker. And back then, the railroad had mechanical watches, and every railroader had to have a mechanical watch that was railroad certified. So they didn't have battery stuff back then. So, that was kind of a big deal. So they did a lot of watch regulation and things like that. My dad graduated college in 57. That's the year I was born. And they decided to go into business together and buy in with Mr. Sarter. So it became Sarter Hamann Jewelers. Eventually, Mr. Sarter left a year or so later and retired, moved to California, but they wanted to keep the name because it was so well known for high quality in the Lincoln area. So they were there quite a while. And then some of my earliest memories were where the Centrum is now, which is the Lincoln Southeast Community College over there. Before that building was built, we had a store over there. And that was when things really kind of started taking off. There was, at that time, downtown Lincoln was the place. So there was no malls. Everybody went downtown to go shopping. And when we were kids, we would take the bus downtown, later on ride our bikes downtown, and everything happened downtown. So all your stores, all your restaurants, movie theaters, and all that was downtown. Along the way, of course, malls started coming in. But so we had a store across the street, and it got some national recognition for design and things like that. And I remember that place very well. I worked in that building when I was 15 or 14. I started doing engraving at that time and cleaning, janitorial stuff. Eventually, then, of course, Gateway was built. And originally, Gateway Mall was very small, and it was mostly local businesses. So you had your Miller and Payne, your Ben Simons, McGee, us. Oh, gosh, I can't even think of all of them. There were so many. But that was before the era of the big mall where you'd have all these national chains. And they would work a deal with one company and they'd put them into 200 malls as an example. So, and most of that is now coming back full circle. It's very interesting that, the malls are now really suffering and these national chains are all going under. So they're begging local businesses to come back in. So we were out there for 35 years. And so you could just see the progression change of the shopping patterns. So at the time, Gateway was in the middle of the country. It was the end of town. A lot of people were moving in that direction, and Gateway became the shopping destination instead of downtown. Meanwhile, in 77, my dad bought the building that we're in now downtown on 12th and O. It was known as originally the First National Bank building. And there was a Boyd's Jewelry on the main level. And it was an old, really cool, funky building. It was the site of the largest, to this day, cash robbery in history. And I think this occurred. There's been a couple books written about it. I think it was in the 30s during the era when you had Babyface Nelson and all these guys roaming around the country with their submachine guns and Tommy guns and pulling into a smaller town and just wiping them out. So. So it's got an interesting history in the location, but then we went in and tore that whole thing down. And I remember that clearly helping going up. It was, I think, 7 stories high and, getting everything out that we could that was worth saving. We owned the building at that point, and which meant we owned Boyd's Jewelers, which he had retired and got out. We never told anybody, but we ran a going out of business sale for Boyd. And my dad's cousin whose name is Lauren Hamann, who was integral in the growth of the business, was over there running that, and he had cards printed up that said Mr. Lauren. It didn't ever say anything about Hamann. So we ran that
Oh,
going out
wow.
of business sale over there. That was fun. I worked during that time. Meanwhile, he built the new building. At this point, I'm in high school, late high school, still doing things there. And that building at the time won a ton of national awards. It's still there. You can see it. It's
Wow.
right there on 12th and O. It was very contemporary at the time. All the windows upstairs pointed north, which was weird because you would think they were solar or heat retention, you'd want them facing south. They did that because in diamond grading, in color grading, when you're grading the color of a diamond, you're supposed to have due north light. It's the purest form of light to grade diamonds. That's why they did that. So anyway, that building took over. It underwent a lot of changes over the years, and it's still there. It's still our headquarters. We're converting it right now into what's called an outlet store, which is going to be very exciting because the one problem that jewelers have in particular is that if inventory doesn't move rather quickly, it becomes aged very quickly. So aged inventory is a very big problem in the industry as a whole. And a lot of people just don't know what to do with it. They may run a sale once a year, clothing where everything turns over every season. And, there's a place that you discount it all the time to get rid of, the summer stuff and the spring stuff. Jewelry isn't that way. It's a longer process. So
Right.
in this store, there's going to be a ton of inventory that's brand new and beautiful, and it's going to be discounted heavily. So starting at about 30% off,
Wow.
going all the way down to 75% off, and then we'll be doing some flash sales. One day only type stuff. Everything's 50 off.
That's
so it's going to be
exciting.
really
Wow.
exciting. We're also going to feature a lot of estate items. And over the years, we've purchased a ton of beautiful estate items from people as they had gotten older. And let's say
Right.
they passed and then they left it all to their kids. Well, their kids didn't want it. Let's say the parent, traveled all over the world, bought a bunch of beautiful things, and then the kids are stuck with it and they don't know what to do with it. So
Right.
we keep all that good stuff. And there is some amazing things that we've purchased over the years. So that will also be a feature in there. And then we'll also have a buying procedure there. So if you've got stuff, you want to bring it in, our appraisers can look at it, make you an offer. So
Fantastic. And just let me interrupt, just so everyone knows, where's that outlet going to be located again?
at 12th and O downtown Lincoln, in our current building. Our shop will still be there. Our offices are upstairs, our corporate offices. It's just going to be it's already in process. It's going to have a different look. And it's really cool. My daughter's doing most of that. So it's really a cool building, and it's going to be fun to see how that takes off. So with regards to then, we had the mall Gateway, and we also had downtown, and then Grand Island opened a mall, and all the same people from Lincoln went to the Grand Island Mall. So that was very local in the beginning, and we were there for 30 plus years. We were at Gateway for, I think, 35 or 37 years.
Wow.
Then they built South Point. Then my dad loves Colorado, and my sister lived in Colorado. He always wanted a store in Fort Collins, so we opened a store in Fort Collins and did pretty well for a while until the mall really started kind of going downhill. It's just hard to manage that many locations. Back in those days, that was the hot deal. You wanted 10 or 20 stores everywhere. Well, all you did was multiply the cost, and it didn't really necessarily become more profitable. So you look at some very traditional jewelers like Tiffany's, they've always been in one location. Borsheim's in Omaha the same way. A lot of people resisted that temptation smartly to expand. So over the years, we've had to gradually keep paring things down back to where eventually I'd like to have everything under one location. So it's much easier to manage, and probably still keep the downtown location as the outlet, or open a separate store in a strip mall or something as the outlet. So right now we have 3 stores. We've got then South Point came along. It got developed in the beginning. They struggled. They built that wrong. They admit it. You You weren't able to drive through. First time I ever went out there, I'll never forget. It was like 20 below zero at Christmas, and my wife Sherry said we need to go to this Old Navy store. So I'm like, okay. So I thought, you just pull up to it and go in. No, you had to walk all the way around and go outside to get into Old Navy. And I was like, this is the craziest thing I've ever seen. This is not going to make it in a cold climate. Anyway, I lost you, Adam. I hope you're still there. Lost your, are you there?
Okay, there we go.
Okay.
So, all right, let's pick up from the Old Navy store.
Yeah, so South Point was the only mall that the Red Development Group built that way. From that point forward, all of them were drive-through. So, for example, Village Point in Omaha, which I think was their next one, you can drive up to the store. So they struggled to get local businesses in there. And at that time, that was way out in the country and none of the development had taken place. So after the first 5 or 10 years, they came to us originally, and Don turned them down. It said, no, it's not ready. So then they had a guy that had a luggage store in there go out of business, and they wanted us real bad. So we went in there. So at that time, we had 3 stores in Lincoln, which is just total insanity.
Wow.
I had actually left the business for quite some time. I had moved to Arizona and California. I had come back and was the sales manager at the Gateway store during all this time. So they opened South Point. I eventually went to work at South Point in sales, and we decided then that we needed to close because the rent was so high. It was just outrageous back in those days, what you paid to be in a mall.
Interesting.
And the rent that we paid at South Point was sweetheart deal of the century because they wanted us in there. So we got a great deal. We got an exclusive. There could never be another jeweler in there as long as we're there. Of course, over time, they've raised that rent, and they tried to raise it really high before everything kind of went south on malls. But we ended up negotiating with them. We extended, and then just recently we re-signed with them again. We personally met with the owner of Red Development, Scott Rehorn. Very interesting guy. You should interview him too. They're down to very few properties now, and most of what they're doing is lifestyle centers, which is a mix of retail, housing, restaurants, bars, etc. And they're doing one of those right now on Highway 2 and 27. That's their project. And they're trying to do something similar at South Point, like on the first floor of the parking garage by Shields. They're trying to fill that in with some brew pubs and restaurants and some other things. So that's kind of where everything's at now with regards to malls.
Right.
The whole era has changed.
That's fantastic. So what did you learn as you saw your dad and your possibly even your grandfather build the business? What did you learn from them that you still carry forward and kind of help you succeed today?
Yes, great question. My dad and I did not get along very well in the beginning. We never did, and we always butted heads. And I ended up leaving actually back in the 80s and started my own store. And that was called Diamond Design.
Okay.
I had that for like 5 years. I ended up coming back. I started life as a rock and roller. I mean, I was on the road, professional musician.
Wow.
That didn't go over too good with pops. But I came back out of that, and I went to Gemological Institute of America in California, got my degree, really enjoyed it, did leave for a while, came back. Actually, I moved and then ended up coming back in the mid 90s. There are some my dad, the one thing about my dad that was very smart, he was a smart guy. He never overreacted. He was very, very patient. And that paid off well over the years in his business dealings. A lot of people that get in business, they get real nervous. I was guilty of this in my younger days, and easy to panic when things aren't perfect and compromise and make moves that you later look back on and think that was the dumbest thing I ever did.
Right.
His patience was incredible. The other thing about my dad that I learned to really love, and incidentally, in the end, we were very good friends. He passed away last December, and he was a wonderful guy. He went through all kinds of terrible Alzheimer's and dementia problems. And, it's been a long, long road.
He was an
with all of
incredible.
that.
I remember his kindness very clearly. Yeah, he was.
As he got older, he just really changed. I mean, when he was younger, he was kind of a maniac. And a lot of those guys were back in those days. They called them the O Street gang. They were all these self-made guys.
Yeah.
And they thought that they were smarter than everybody. And incidentally, all those guys are long gone. All their businesses are completely gone and evaporated, and we're still there. So that's the power of persistence, I guess, is the most important thing I learned from him. The second is never compromise. So, if you had a chance to go cheaper at a cheaper price and sacrifice quality, he would never do that ever.
Wow.
And yeah, it costs a little bit more, but in the long haul, especially in something as important as jewelry, which most people know nothing about, you got to be able to trust who you're dealing with. It's not an easy shoppable item that you can compare at best. Got to maintain consistency, quality, and of course, customer service. So, no matter how hard you got to bite your tongue at times, and they say the customer's always right. Well, they're not, but you can't tell them that. So you've got to do things that you're able to do as an individual local business that national chains just aren't able to do.
Right.
So with that in mind, we've had some of the most amazing stories are, when I would sell a couple a ring when I was young, 17, 18, 19, then their kids would come in later and buy rings, and then their grandkids would come in later. I have one family, I think I served 5 generations of the family over the years. So that's cool. That is cool. And every time I'm out and around, I run into people that say, hey, my parents always bought their jewelry from you guys. I've always done it. We just upgraded so-and-so's items, and my kids have been coming in. And, a lot of times they call me ahead of time and I meet with them, which is super cool. I've got one friend who I helped him with his ring, and now all 3 of his sons came in the last 3 or 4 years and all got married. And now they're all having kids. So we hope to stay around long enough, good Lord willing, that we can service and help them as well. But so those 2 things, persistence, patience, and uncompromising on quality and customer service are the key to anybody in any business. It just doesn't matter. And if you got people in your business, whether it's a car dealership or it's a fast food or whatever it is, if you got people that are a problem, you got to get rid of them. And there's an old adage that says fire fast and hire slow. And if you keep them around, all they're doing is upsetting your good, steady customers.
Right.
And they may not be telling you that. Your customer, they may not be telling you that. But with the outset of Google reviews and Yelp and Facebook and everything else, you find out pretty quick what people are really thinking. And you just have to clear out that chaff and find. And we've been fortunate enough to find incredible people. We have some people who have been with us 30, 40 years.
Yes.
It's not a job per se in the jewelry industry. It's highly specialized, and it requires a lot of training and experience in the industry over time, because you eventually see everything.
Right.
And it's a business that a lot of people try and scam. So, you get smart. And you figure out what's really going on.
Right. And that's definitely something I've noticed, is that the quality of people. You have some tremendous employees on your team.
Yes, we do.
And it has been that way. It's been our great pleasure under First American, to serve you and to come into your stores and get to know, on a face-to-face basis, a lot of those people, and you're an incredible team. What's some advice for the business out there who's looking for good people, who's trying to find the right team and keeping that team? What would you say to them?
We pay our people real well. And I will say in the beginning, we didn't. When Don first had the company, it was sort of a minimum wage, a little bit of commission on the side. I left for a number of years. I worked in the auto industry and in the jewelry industry during that time. And I learned what commission sale. I raised my entire family on commission sales.
Mm.
So I know what it's like to have to perform every single day.
Yeah.
And when I came back, we completely changed the compensation plan. So it became very competitive with other industries where people were making really good incomes, provided that they produce. You
Right.
know, if you don't produce, you're not going to make very much money. And we have had a lot of people over the years that were perfectly happy not making very much money. And of
Mm.
course, if the longer you let them linger at that, you know, they have a self-limiting level of comfort
Right.
that anything beyond that makes them uncomfortable. So they always plateau. Let's say they make their goal the first week of the month and then they sit on their butt the rest of the month. You can't
Right.
have that in this business. You just can't.
Yeah.
You have to have motivated people. So
Right.
we don't let anybody starve. They get a minimum amount. When someone new begins, we put them on a 90-day probation, guaranteed income, because we
Mm.
want them to get into the industry of the business and learn. So number one is we pay people very, very well. You almost want to make it real hard for them to leave, because unless they are just fed up with something and can't take it anymore, you want to make it to where I don't want any of my people starving. I'd rather have my salespeople be the highest paid people in my business than anybody else.
Right.
And unfortunately, in a lot of corporate situations, what happens is the salespeople kick butt, make most of the money. The middle managers get mad, change the pay plan, and everybody leaves. Well, you got to start over every year or two. I mean, it's ridiculous. So
Right.
I would say do not scrimp on paying that if you want professional people.
Right.
You treat them professionally and they're going to behave professionally. Number two is we have a family atmosphere. So, you know, everybody's bought into the family, and it truly is a family. I mean, we get together once or twice a year with all the employees, and we have a great time. It is a family.
Yeah.
Don was the head of all that for a long time, and as he went downhill, you know, my daughter and I had to pick that ball up. My sister got involved from a distance, and we try to maintain that family attitude and atmosphere to where we're all pulling in the same direction. But starting anew, I mean, there's so many different businesses now. I would love to talk about marketing because that's really my thing.
Yeah.
But regarding the employees, is pay them really well, treat them like family, and make it hard for them to quit.
Fantastic. Yeah. What would you say is your superpower? I mean, there's different aspects of business that maybe come easy to some entrepreneurs, but other aspects they have to learn, you know, that takes time. What would be your superpower, or if you will, or, you know, the greatest talent that you bring to the team?
Well, I'm a salesman, number one.
Yeah.
I learned how to sell from a guy named Lenny Zell, who was a industry guru that came around when I was about, I don't know, 24 or something. And back then, you know, you thought the salesman was the creep. You didn't want to be the salesman.
Yeah.
Well, I
Right.
fell in love with it after going through his training, and I became our top salesman all the time. Even though my name was Hamann, I was just an employee.
Right.
So that's number one. I love to sell. Number two is marketing. And over the years, I learned a lot of very hard lessons about marketing and very expensive lessons about marketing, to where today, anybody getting started today does not have to spend a lot of money on marketing. This is a different world today. And it's fabulous with that in mind.
Right.
But what you do has got to capture people's attention, and you've got to be top of mind. Jewelry is a particularly weird thing that nobody thinks about it until it's the day of.
Right.
You know, guys, you know, the old joke is December 24th, all the booze breath, blurry-eyed businessmen are knocking your door down because they got to get something for tomorrow.
Right.
You know, it's a little better than that now because you have a lot more of the women making their own decisions, self-purchasing and things like that. But no, it's still, you got to be in front of people. You got to be top of mind with people. Or you need to be the one that they think of first if they're thinking of a particular item to go.
Right.
And that's easier than ever today. It's, you know, I often think, man, if I could start another business right now, I know it would just take off. I'm 66. Okay. I don't have the energy to do that anymore. Even though I
Right.
feel like I'm pretty healthy and pretty sound of mind, I just don't feel like doing it. But if I was younger and I could get into something that would take off, I'm a fan of a lot of those video channels. Like I can't remember, one of them is called UFlip or something, where people start out with a auto detailing business,
Right.
and they build it into a multi-million-dollar deal, or a guy bought some woodworking gear and developed this incredible niche business, and now is a multimillionaire.
Right.
And that's all marketing. That's all that is. It's marketing. So today with technology, like what you're doing, you've got YouTube. We're going to do a lot of YouTube at the new location. We're going to call it Rick's Picks. So every week or two, we'll pick out 4 or 5 items and talk about them as to why they're great values and what it is unique about them. With Facebook today, Instagram, you don't have to be a rocket scientist. And there's plenty of industry people that can come in and run that for you. I mean, remotely.
Right.
They can create the entire campaigns. It looks professional. We use 2 different companies that are excellent. You got to have a great website. You got to have a Facebook presence. You got to have hopefully YouTube or something like that. At least Instagram, where people can see photos. Pinterest is great. So it's not expensive today at all to market your business and to get it in front of people, to create word of mouth without even word of mouth.
Right.
You're just in front. Everybody's on one of these all the time. And the first thing they're doing is they're looking to see what's going on with their friends, and then the ads come through. And the amount of technology today in geofencing and geo-targeting is astounding. I mean, it's like they can target people that live within 20 miles of your location that have bought a piece of jewelry that was over $800 in the last 6 months, and if you want to target that person, it's so easy to do. We threw away hundreds of thousands of dollars over the years on newspaper ads and radio spots and TV. I mean, this stuff to me, nothing against TV or radio, but to me, it's the biggest ripoff on the planet. Now, we do radio, but in our case, we do sports talk radio, because to me, that's our target market. That's the dude that's, 21 to 55 that is still in the market. So, and so when I decided to market on 93.7 The Ticket here in Lincoln, but right before DP bought it, we got in there for next to nothing. And the reason I got in there was, first of all, I liked their lineup, and I knew Steve Sipple, and I liked his morning show. So Jake and Steve and I kind of started this thing. It's been maybe 6 years ago, I think, as when DP came aboard, bought that station. But over the period now, that show has become so huge. That station in general has become humongous. And the morning show in particular is the highest rated show of all, I think, in all categories, males 18 to 55 in the morning. And it's on from 6 to 8.
Wow.
Go figure.
Yeah. Wow.
So we own the video streaming. We own the text line. We run ads. We get boatloads of mentions all day, every day by all the former star athletes that are on all the programming. And it pays off, because that's a loyal, really loyal audience there.
Okay.
And the first thing they think of is, I got to go buy some jewelry. I need to go see Rick at Sartor Hamann. We also do Hail Varsity with Chris Schmidt, who's a longtime, really great friend of mine. We do advertising on that program, which is also very good. And they also broadcast on 590 in Omaha, which gives us reach up there on the air. But other than that, I don't do TV. I don't do radio. You don't need to do it. The other thing I would say to somebody brand new is you need to do some promotions on a consistent basis. So if you look at Runza, in the winter, they do Temperature Tuesdays. You look at McDonald's right now; they've got a triple cheeseburger for $2.79.
Right.
Whatever it is, you need to do something every month or two to create excitement for people to come in and see you. Now,
gets people in. Yeah.
Trust me on this, because when we used to do promotions quite a bit, and then when my daughter came aboard, she thought it was tacky and she didn't like it. So we stopped, and our business really suffered because of that.
Right.
We were a little overboard, I will admit, with something like every 2 weeks. However, you've got to give people a reason to come in and
Right.
over the other guy. So we went through a period where we were giving away, when this was a big deal, a 50-inch TV if you spent $2,000 on a piece of jewelry.
Wow.
We did Traeger grills at one point. We've done Shields gift cards at one point. This year we're doing gift with purchase. So if you spend $1,000, you're going to get a $250 gift card to buy something else in the store.
Wow. Jeez.
Or I think it's something like that. So point being is you've got to create demand of your product, even when there may not be.
Yeah. Excitement and fervor and get people in the door. That's fantastic. Right. Can you share maybe a defining moment or decision in your career that, had a major impact on your success individually?
Well, when I came back from California in 97, at that point, I was a really, really smart sales guy. I was also a marketing guy. And we basically turned the company upside down at that point with our compensation system. We also started doing really fun and funny marketing. And people that have been around a long time will remember we did the diamond coaches. And those were the funniest ads. And people would listen to the radio just to hear them. It was me and my dad. And we were pretending like we were the coach of the kid who, needed to get something for his girlfriend, but didn't know what to do.
Oh, okay.
That was really at the time kind of game changing.
Sure.
And so, of course, with that, then you got to spend all the money to run the ads everywhere, which, you can go broke really fast running ads.
Right.
I would say just simply staying long enough in one spot and letting everything take its course, which it has. I'm now the owner of the business, the president. Well, I'm 66. That took a long time.
Right.
Nothing happens overnight, and you have to stick it out. No matter what your head is telling you, no matter what your family's telling you, no matter how broke you are, and you're going to be broke. I've been broke more than once. It's going to happen. If you truly have the desire, you'll figure it out. It'll come together for you. Fortunately, we have a 120-year-old business that not very many businesses anywhere in the world are 120 years old.
Exactly.
So I'd be crazy to ever leave that. That is, to me, the rock. And you've got to look back at my grandfather, my dad, Lauren Hamann, all our salesmen, all our managers over the years that helped build that and create what we have today. And my job is to expand that. And my daughter, who's in the business, hopefully will take it over eventually. But it only took me 50 years.
Right. Right.
I started when I was 14. I'm 66. I just became the owner and the president. So, I mean, come on,
Yeah. That's incredible. Yeah, and that's that patience that you were talking about that came.
Yeah, and there was long periods where we just didn't make any money at all. I mean, we struggled, and people think, well, you got it made, you got this and you got that. It wasn't like that. Believe me.
Right.
I mean, my wife worked nights, I worked days. We struggled for a long, long time, just like anybody else. And we made dumb decisions, business decisions that I regret. But, you learn something from every decision that you make, whether it be I'll never do that again, or, that was pretty smart at the time. I wish I would have stuck with it.
Yeah. In those over 100 years, obviously, Sartor Hamann must have had some low points. You mentioned that a little bit. What was maybe the bottom? What was like the point where, man, I don't know if we're going to get through this? And how'd you get
1905 to now? We're talking about the Great Depression, World War I, World War II, the economic disaster in the 70s. I could tell you stories about that because I was active in the business. When the economy, interest rates went to 19% and gold went from $50 an ounce to $800 in about 2 months.
Wow.
And people were literally digging up their relatives' graves and pulling their teeth out to
Oh
bring
my
them
God.
in to have us. And at that time, the only way you could do it was you had to burn the gold out of the teeth. And I'll never forget that smell as long as I live,
Oh my
because we
God.
had people bringing that stuff in right and left. And interest rates were through the roof. I mean, nobody could get a loan. You couldn't finance jewelry like today. You can finance jewelry at a pretty reasonable rate. And then you had the disaster of the economy in the 2000s when everything fell apart and nobody
Right.
had any money. And then you had COVID. And honestly,
Hmm.
certain industries, and we were, thank God, one of them, had our best years ever during COVID.
Wow.
Why that is, I don't know, but I believe it to be a lot of people felt like, I don't know if I'm going to be here a year from now. I've always wanted to buy this item. I'm going to do it.
Yeah.
You had boats, RVs, housing, swimming pools, all these type of things that had record years,
Interesting.
and we did as well. We came off 2 consecutive years of course. Now, when everything shut down, that was really bizarre, and we closed Grand Island, we closed South Point for like 2 months, and we were open downtown by appointment only.
Wow.
And we still sold. And I guess the good thing about that was that people weren't interested in shopping around per se.
Hmm.
They went on your website. They already knew what they wanted. They came in and they bought it and they left. And it was kind of the best of all worlds for us during that time. But
Wow.
so, yeah, I mean, now we're going through the same thing again with the interest. And it's thankfully, Nebraska is slow to the bubble to grow, and it's slow to burst. But in any event, it's still tough, and real estate is fueling most of that, where people just don't feel like they're flush, like they've got the
Right.
type of money they need. Fortunately, there's enough people in this particular area in Nebraska, whether it's through inheritance or smart businesses dealings over the years, that have done very well financially. There's a lot of
Right.
very, very wealthy people in Nebraska. A lot of people would not even realize how well. But that has helped us. And of course, sticking around through all that bad stuff and still being here, not throwing in the towel, made us a champion to them.
Yeah, that makes sense. So speaking of throwing in the towel, I mean, obviously there's a lot of businesses that have made big mistakes, but what mistakes do you see business owners make or entrepreneurs make that you just think to yourself, man, if they would do this, and this, it could get them through those tough times.
Yeah.
And then do better for the wearer as well.
I just don't know that many other businesses per se. And the most of the ones that I do know have been around a long time and they've done pretty well.
Yeah.
Again, I would say don't make rash decisions. Don't pull the trigger too fast. Give it a week. Pray on it, sleep on it, think about it.
Yeah.
Don't get impatient. Don't be impulsive. Don't expand beyond your capacity. Don't expect a market that is not there to suddenly materialize.
Interesting.
I know people that have started businesses that are really kind of off the wall. And I look at that and think, who's the customer? And, is there a niche there that needs to be filled? And who is it that's going to spend that money on that particular thing? Business is really simple. Is you find something that people want and need and will pay for it, and you provide it to them.
Yeah.
And if you're getting into some really obscure thing that there really isn't a very good market for, I think you're really wasting your time. Case in point, how many Scooters copies are there on every block in every city in Nebraska?
Right.
That is like the most genius. That's a ATM machine.
Right.
Starbucks made everybody want to have a coffee 5 times a day.
Yeah.
And Scooters did it beautifully with their local model. Now, of course, they're national, but that's just like, it doesn't matter where you are. You could be in a cornfield 30 miles outside of everywhere, and they're going to find you.
Right.
Other businesses are, if it's a really obscure thing, you better know real clearly or have some really smart people in your marketing that can dial down the numbers for you and find out who that customer is and how you get to them and how you get them to come in.
Right. Right.
Thankfully, everybody's always going to need jewelry. It's not anything anybody needs, but they want. It's a symbol of sincerity and love. And like I say in a new ad that I'm just getting ready to record tomorrow, it's like, if you want to say something to someone you love, there is nothing on earth that says it better than jewelry. Male or female, it doesn't matter. It's a personalized thing that is it's sincere, it's loving, and it's a keepsake.
Right.
And thankfully, our business has been able to do that. My dad did a great job of that. My grandfather before him, and I'm trying to carry that on.
Which you definitely are doing a great job. So anybody that wants jewelry, go to Sartor Hamann. Now, I know you're involved in some other things too. You not everybody knows this, but you write books, and some of them are just tremendous. Tell us about your books for those people that may not have heard about them. And
I wrote a book. It's been almost 5 or 6 years ago now, under an assumed name.
Okay.
And it had a little bit of a religious undertone because I'm a believer, and it expressed some of my faith. But it's still available on Amazon. It's called Black Flag Rising by Jesse Russell. I did the assumed name thing because I didn't want to create an image of the business with the fiction writer,
Sure.
And at the time, my dad was still alive, and I just didn't want to. I just wanted to be separate.
Sure.
I have several friends that are independent authors that have made millions. I mean, literal millions. They don't have book deals. They do it all independent. I took several classes online regarding how to do that, and it was a very big learning experience. Writing is hard. It's extremely hard. It requires devotion and discipline. You're not doing it to make money, okay? And the best advice I ever got was, if you can tell a story, you can write a book. So if you're a good storyteller, you can write something that people are going to want to read. Again, I took all the classes. There's several really, really great places you can go to learn how to do it. I self-published it. I put it out on Amazon. It sold real well. I didn't make any money by the time I figured it all out. I mean, I probably lost money on it. Yeah, I've had about 5 other ideas to write since then, and I've got one in particular that it's just driving me crazy that I can't get it started. That I'll start, and then the last 5 years in our lives have just been a blur. We moved. My dad passed away. We had estate issues. We've had so much happening that it's just been really difficult. And that book that you're referring to, I wrote that in the hours of 4 to 6 a.m. every morning.
That's right.
So
wow.
You have to, you got to get up, have a clear brain, not have on the news or the radio, and flesh this thing out. There's multiple ways of writing. There's what's called outlining, where you already know the whole story. You just have to put the pieces together. That's hard for me. What I knew with this one was how it ended. That's it. And to me, it was just as much a surprise as how it transpired, because that to me was just a gift. Right. And this stuff just flowed out of me. I have no idea how. And the story took a life of its own. And they call that pantsing, which means seat of your pants writing. So it just comes out of you. Like I said, I was a musician for a long time. Creativity is not difficult for me.
Yeah.
But that was hard. I will tell you, and you better be committed, man, because anybody can write about a third of a book. Finishing it, getting it published, getting it edited, having it on sale.
Get it all the way done. Yeah, exactly.
That's a whole other issue. But there's plenty of, this is why I love the internet. YouTube, you can learn how to do anything on YouTube. You could be a surgeon on YouTube.
Right.
I learned a lot from other authors. I just listened to what they said. and it's still a passion of mine. I'm going to go back to it. And I just read an article about the movie My Cousin Vinny, right?
Okay.
Um, to me, one of the greatest movies ever created. And
Yeah.
the character development and the storyline are just absolutely brilliant.
Right.
The guy that wrote that had the idea in college, and it took him 20 years to finally write it. And when he did write it, it took him like 6 months.
Wow.
And I read this whole article with interviewing the directors, the writers, the actors about how it all came about. And it's an amazing story. So just because I haven't written one in 5 or 6 years doesn't mean I don't have 25 more coming.
Absolutely. Well, we're excited to see those. We'll put the link in the chat too. Anyone that wants that book, that would be fantastic.
Yeah, read the reviews. I mean, don't take, these are all, these are not my friends' reviews. You know what I'm saying? These are all verified on Amazon. Go read the reviews. You'll make a determination based on the reviews, whether it sounds like something you might be interested in. I think it's 90% 4 and 5 stars. Yeah, I mean, it took off like crazy, and I still have a lot of fans that are waiting for my next book.
Waiting for the next one. Wow. Well, we'll put that in there most definitely. So you mentioned a couple other things, and I've got a list of other questions. But one thing you mentioned that's near and dear to me as well is you mentioned your faith. My faith plays a big role in how I built First American Payment Systems. I remember even knocking on doors, cold calling, back in the old days. And man, I was beating my head against the wall trying to build what we now have at First American. And, at times where, man, I don't know if I was going to make it through. And I would sit down, I'd sit in my car and pray, and I'd ask God, for strength and for help through those times. And I'll never forget it. I couldn't get a sale. I couldn't get anything going on, and couldn't get any interest. And I started praying. And it was in that moment, God said, just go serve people, just go love people, just go spread light, And that's what I did. I just started trying to make people smile, as I was knocking on doors. And that was the day I closed one of the biggest sales I ever had. Wow. Which, it's amazing. How has your faith played a role in your business? And
oh my gosh, it's innumerable ways. And I'm as big a sinner as the next guy. Trust me, I'm no holy roller. Right. But I do have a strong faith in Christ and in God. And we try and reflect that at the store with our giving. If you go on our website, you'll see all the charities that we do give to. We're currently involved with Lincoln Christian. My grandchildren are going there. We're a major sponsor there. We try and support every youth Christian organization in the area. But yeah, God's been real good to me. And there's been so many times when I couldn't hear him, or I didn't go to him, and made really stupid decisions. Yeah. So right. I would just recommend that, if you don't have faith, look into it. And if you do, don't turn your back on it, because God will use you, and he uses you in many different ways that you don't even realize now.
Amen to that. Absolutely. Well, and we have all you have to do is turn on the news, and we have a challenging world that we live in.
Hey, look, I'm not the expert. You don't have to listen to me, but there's a book in the Bible that explains all this.
Yeah.
And it seems to be coming closer every day.
Right. Absolutely. Well, and given what's going on in society these days, anything you'd like to say publicly about the world at large, or where we're going, what you think we should do about it?
I try not to get political with the store. I don't get political with that, but I am a very political person personally. And my friends know that, and my family knows that. I'm not ashamed of it. I'm very distressed with the direction of this country. I'm very distressed with the condition of our culture. And I think a lot of people are giving in and not standing up, and I think that is a very bad thing.
Well, it's challenging not only for our culture, but I think for business owners as well who want to build businesses. I mean, I can tell you, I've got properties. I do a lot of real estate stuff outside of First American, and I can tell you, I have an Airbnb in LA, and you would not believe how difficult it is to do business down there. Just the government restrictions, the regulations.
I don't know how people do business in most of these major cities at all. Again, I feel so blessed that we're in Lincoln, even though Lincoln is very left leaning. It's still Nebraska, and Nebraska people have common sense. And I do really like our our state government. And like you said, LA, I own a property in Arizona that we used to VRBO, and then we stopped because we had a disaster happen. And I think we're going to redo it again. Now we're buying a retirement property in Florida, Northwest Florida right now. And it's in Panama City Beach, which is, about the reddest place on the planet. Matt Gaetz is our congressman, okay?
Oh, is that right? Wow.
Yeah, that tells you about it. But it's kind of by destiny. Jimmy Buffett licensed his name to this company, and this is their third community. It's called Latitude Margaritaville, and it's all a Margaritaville theme. It's 55 and older.
Wow.
We hope to retire there eventually. And so I know what you're talking about. There's certain parts of the country and certain cities, I have no concept how anybody does business. In fact, at one time, downtown San Francisco, had some of the greatest jewelry companies in the world, the oldest jewelry companies in America. They're all gone. Every day you read about all these businesses having to shut their doors. It's really sick. I don't know how New York City's doing it. I don't know how Chicago's doing it. It is just madness. And we've had to take steps security-wise in our business. We have been robbed. We have been armed robbed over the years. Nothing like what we're seeing on the news with this mass looting and all that stuff. But my gosh, Beverly Hills, LA, I don't know how anybody can do business there.
That's incredible. Yeah. Well, and that reminds me, because you had mentioned that the largest robbery in history. Is that right? Was that at Gateway Mall?
Robbery.
Cash robbery.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, cash robbery.
Can you tell us that story? Because I think not a lot of people know that about Lincoln, Nebraska.
If you go Google search largest cash robbery Lincoln, Nebraska, you'll see the story. And a guy has actually written a book about it, a local guy. And there is a paperback on it, but I don't know that much other than we have an article that somebody saved in an old newspaper that we have framed down at the store. It was some gangsters, back in the day that when it was a bank and they knew when there was going to be cash, and there was like one cop. It was like Barney Fife on a bicycle. I'm not kidding.
Wow.
And he had like his bullet in his pocket, like Barney Fife.
Yeah.
And they just mowed him down and went inside and took all the cash out of the bank. And they never caught him. To this day, they got off scot-free. Now, the other big cash robbery was portrayed in Goodfellas when they did the Swiss Air robbery the mob did there at JFK Airport. And that was a big cash robbery, but I still don't think it was as big as this one. So go Google search it. You'll find it. It's a pretty amazing story.
Well, last two things, and I know I'll let you go because I know you're a busy man. But speaking of that, in our business, we have a lot of, we tackle this as well, a lot of fraud. I mean, it's just almost getting rampant.
Oh, yeah.
Even, everybody wants credit cards. I mean, we literally get thousands and thousands of hack attempts on our database every day.
I'll bet.
It's insane. I could tell you stories, but what's for the business owner out there is trying to avoid fraud, trying to keep his doors open and obviously, be profitable. What advice do you have for that, or any stories you can share there?
I think today you're pretty much immune from fraud. The banks react pretty quick when they see fraudulent activity on credit cards and such. Online, It's very difficult. So if you're selling online, it's much harder to track.
Yeah.
You need to get with somebody that, like you, that knows what they're doing to process your payment. We've had several, over the year, and I've been doing this 50 years. So, I've seen a little bit of everything. We used to have charge accounts for people and they just come in and buy whatever they wanted and then, flake out and leave town. That's kind of how business used to be. It's much more tight now. It's harder to defraud a business now, especially if it's smaller items, I think. But in our business, that's what our training is to spot, if somebody tries to bring in and sell us a 2-carat diamond, we better make darn sure that that's a 2-carat diamond.
Right.
And we're really good at that. if somebody brings us in a Rolex watch, they want to sell it to us, we better make darn sure that's a real Rolex watch. And I've seen some amazing fakes that are so good that they'd almost fool you. But
wow.
yeah, I mean, it's just experience. Just get with somebody good like you guys to protect you if you're in business, because there's nothing more important than getting paid.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah. And when it comes to my money, that's why I bank with a little bank right across the street. I know the branch manager, I like to look somebody. I know I can trust them because that's so important. And we manage a lot of companies.
All our banking is local. We used to go through one of the bigs. We got out of there. I don't trust them anymore. We deal strictly with local banking. We have our personal people in there that we know. We can pick up the phone and make a call and get things done. Right. I strongly recommend going through local bank.
Definitely.
You hear stories every day about another bank going under. I think you're safe with a good, strong local bank in Nebraska.
Absolutely. Well, and as far as jewelry goes, you've probably forgotten more about jewelry. Certainly Sartor Hamann has than most of us here. What advice do you have for entrepreneurs, businessmen? Just in general. I mean, obviously, you guys have done a lot of things right over the years. What about the startup business that's wants to get where you're at?
Be patient. Be passionate. Don't let up. Don't give in. Be smart. Ask other people. Learn from other people that are doing what you want to do. There's nothing wrong with copying successful people. That's the only way you're ever going to learn, other than personal experience. I mean, I could advise people a lot of really stupid things that I did that I wished I hadn't done. And I can also advise people on some pretty smart things that are not that expensive. So I would just say be passionate, be persistent, be patient. It's a day-to-day deal. It's not overnight. This is not winning the lottery. It's going to take some time. Like I said, it took me only 50 years. So
Right. Since you mentioned it, what are some of those smart things and what are some of those not so smart things that you do?
I just made a lot of really stupid, rash decisions when I was young. I was a hothead. I thought I was brilliant. Just really stupid. I don't need to go into any of them, but smart things are just wait. I mean, just wait. My dad, before he had his heart issues when he was in his late 50s, was just a maniac. I mean, he'd run around screaming and hollering all the time. And then, like I said, as he got older, he really mellowed out. He was a wonderful person. But yeah, I was like, dude, you're going to have a heart attack. Just calm down. Everything's going to be fine. Let's just think this thing out. Let's go slow, which he did. Fortunately, he was very good about that. But yeah, I mean, you just need to plan on sticking with it and take it one day at a time. This is no 5-year plan, 10-year plan. You go into the bank and they say, let's see your business plan. Well, here's my business plan. In the first year, I'm going to do this. Second year, I'm going to do that. Third year, I'm going to make all this money. Fourth year, I remember doing that. Thankfully, we're debt free and haven't had any bank loans in this company. But that's all bull. And, it's just pie in the sky. It's day to day. It's showing up every day and doing what you can do to further your business and network. Get out and meet people. Join some Facebook groups, join some local civic clubs, network yourself. I look at Paige Zudavern with that Lincoln Business Magazine. I think they've been doing that for 30 years. They just have always been there, and they're very successful now. But I remember when they were just a startup, begging people to advertise in there. That's a 30-year success story. Might take you 30 years, okay?
Right.
So you just got to be prepared for that day to day. And we live in an instantaneous world, and I'm sorry, that's just not the way business works.
Right. Yeah, it's so true. And it's especially now so much more so with the rise of social media, with everything's on your phone and people can kind of hide behind their phones, I think, these days too, which, you lose a little bit of that face to face. You lose some of those interactions where, it didn't used to be so extreme in the old days. I remember in the 80s, the 90s, when there's a lot more face-to-face interaction and you didn't have the vitriol that we see now in today's society. When people can hide behind a screen and just, send a text or send a nasty comment on an Instagram post or those,
or a bad Google review.
You couldn't get away with that in the 80s and 90s. Well, it's been an honor and a pleasure to have you, Rick. I really appreciate it. Maybe we need to go for round 2. We can even learn more in the future. But thanks so much for coming on. It's been fantastic. And anybody who wants the best jewelry in Nebraska, go to Sartor Hamann Jewelers. We'll put the link down below, and hope to have you again on soon.
Thanks so much, Adam. It's been a real pleasure.
Fantastic. All right, so we'll cut it there, and I will I'll edit that from there. So super. Well, thanks again. This has been fantastic.
That was fun.
Yeah, I didn't know you were doing some of the real estate stuff like in Arizona and Florida. That's fantastic.
Well, I've always had a place in Arizona. I mean, for 30 plus years. The Florida thing is going to be more our retirement. It's really cool. This whole development is amazing, and it's still affordable. And I love that part of the state. The sand beaches are like powdered sugar, and this is on the Intercoastal Waterway. They're building a 1,000-slip marina next door.
Wow!
Yeah, so it is truly an amazing. They built one. The first one was in Daytona Beach. The second one was at Hilton Head.
Okay.
This is their third and largest in Panama City. And I just fell in love with that whole area down there. We call it LA, Lower Alabama.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. It is Alabama. I mean, it's a forest right up to the ocean, and with some palm trees mixed in.
Wow.
But it's a special place. It's super ultra conservative and Christian. It's MAGA country. It's not only is it beautiful, but the people are beautiful. And I just love it there. That's my new. It used to be Scottsdale was my adopted hometown, but that place is. Me turned nuts. Maricopa County's insane.
Yeah, it's really
the home of sun and crooked politicians and crazy Californians that have all moved there. But so we went down to Panama City based on my daughter renting a VRBO down there on the beach.
Okay.
With all of our family and our grandkids. And it was in an area called Rosemary Beach, which is on an area called 30A. 30A is a stretch of highway in Florida between Destin and Panama City. And it's old, famous beach communities. And it's sort of ragtag shops and restaurants and the best seafood you've ever had in your life. And
wow. Fantastic.
Super chill. So, I mean, we just absolutely went head over heels for this area. And, Clay Travis and Buck Sexton.
Sure. Yeah. Okay.
Clay lives there. He lives in Rosemary Beach.
Wow.
So there's $10 million houses, and then there's developments like mine, where mine's going to be 500,000,
Yeah. Sure.
It's a villa. It's a side-by-side. And it's about 2,000 square feet. So I've had a condo in Phoenix forever. I've had two of them, and we had a terrible experience and had a crackhead destroy the place. And Sherry said, "No, never again are we going to rent it."
Yeah.
And then we were going to sell it, and now the market's tightened up. So I think we might end up keeping it because I do still like going down there. I got some friends down there. Even though it's Crazyville, it's easy to get to. I have a car there.
Yeah.
And I'll rent it to old Canadians, 3 or 4 months out of the year.
Or even, I do travel nurses as well. I've got
that's good.
Florida, and but let me know. I can help with that. We do a lot of. I have one in Scottsdale as well. I've got LA, as I mentioned, and 2 in Florida. Plus I got 4 or 5 rentals here, and we're working on a 5-plex. But I'm always looking for good deals and good opportunities. And so if you ever want to get in on a real estate deal, we can. I do looking at a lot of multifamily. I think there's a 16-unit building for sale. Well, off market, so nobody knows about it yet. But I know it's going to be on market soon. A pretty good deal. So I might.
Where's that?
It's I want to say 11th and C, right next to
Lincoln.
that elementary school.
Yeah.
Right next to that elementary school. And I mean, the rents are a little bit under market, so I think we could easily bump those up. And it's already been renovated. It's already.
Well, isn't it government money funding the renting?
Well, it could be. Yeah, I mean, I'll look into that as well. But
because I have a buddy that had a multi-unit place down on 22nd and N.
Okay.
And about half of that was, government funded rent payments.
Section 8, yeah, right.
Section 8,
yeah. Well, I don't.
Check it out. Keep me in the loop. But like I said, my son-in-law is Pat Heiser, and he's a commercial realtor.
Okay.
He's a great guy, super smart, doing really well. He'd be a good guy to talk to for your show.
Okay.
He's done a little bit of everything, and he finally settled on commercial real estate.
Fantastic. Yeah.
But he's also a good guy to know if you ever want to take some money and throw it into some commercial stuff. Most of what they do is, large, like warehouse stuff.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Office buildings, those types. Yeah. Okay. That makes sense. Well, yeah, appreciate that. I'd love to touch base with him, and yeah, let's keep this thing going. And thanks so much for coming on. You added some star power, I think, to our show. So it's
I don't know about that. Do you ever hear my show on Thursday mornings on 93.7?
You know, I got to get on there and listen. I'm not a radio guy usually in the mornings. I like silence, but I need to check it out. Yeah. Read my
So we
Bible.
sponsor the song of the day. I always do the song of the day at quarter to seven, and then once a week I come in and do my song of the day because I'm an old musician and an audiophile. So I'm a music fanatic, and old 80s and 70s rock, which was my era.
Nice.
And so right now I'm doing movie songs.
Okay.
And this week is going to be the movie The Longest Yard with Burt Reynolds.
Nice.
And it's the opening song of the movie, which is Saturday Night Special by Leonard Skinner.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I didn't know that was on there. That's
so
cool.
Then these guys, then they rate the song, and we do trivia, and then I do Stump the Sip, where I do 3 different questions and see if they get a diamond or a CZ. So it's a fun little bit.
That's cool.
Yeah.
And that's 8 o'clock, you said?
No, it's 6:45 on 93.7.
6:45. Okay.
And you can watch it on YouTube or listen to the stream too. And I always post it back on my Facebook after it's been posted.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check that out.
Those guys are kicking ass. I'm telling you, that station is kicking ass.
And you said DP is the new owner?
Derek Pearson is the owner. He's from Washington, D.C. He's a black guy.
Okay.
His wife's name is Rebecca. They have Vershawn Jackson. They have Bill Bush on our show in the morning, the former coach.
Oh, okay.
They have Vershawn Jackson and Terrell Farley in the mornings. Then they have Jay Foreman and DP in the evening, and they have Eric Strickland, the former basketball and NBA player, in the afternoons too.
Oh, nice.
So they got all these former great athletes that host these shows, and I mean, their ratings are just
fantastic. Yeah, I'll add him to the list of future.
You'd love him. He'll tell you everything. Derek, he's a talker. DP.
Yeah, I will do that. Fantastic. Well, thank you, sir. We're working on getting it up online, and I'll keep you in the loop on that. And really appreciate you coming on. It's been fantastic.
Oh, you bet. That was a lot of fun.
Yeah, sounds good, sir. Well, enjoy the rest of your week. We'll stay in touch. Thanks again.
Thank you.